Hello and welcome to the Local Leaders Podcast. I'm your host, Jeff Johnson. The Local Leaders Podcast provides a platform for successful business owners to share their stories, their experiences, their advice, and their ideas in order to help our listeners achieve more success in their business and in their lives. Get ready, another great show is coming up. Hey, good afternoon, everyone. This is Jeff Johnson, your host of the Local Leaders Podcast, and we are super excited to be talking with Zaid Ayoub today. He's from SAJJ Mediterranean over in the great state of California, and we want to welcome you to the show. Zaid, thanks for being here.
Thank you very much, Jeff. Thank you, Jeff. It's my honor to be here with you.
Yeah, well, it's really ours, but I appreciate that. We're so grateful to have a few minutes of your time, and we really want to jump right in there and try to provide some great information, to our audience so that they can learn and grow. SAJJ Mediterranean, for all of our listeners, has 13 locations today, and they're doing some really cool and incredible things, with their business and in terms of their growth model, and we'll get into that, but before I go there, I'm going to just hand it off to you, sir, and just have you, tell our audience, our listeners, a little bit about SAJJ Mediterranean and what it's all about.
Fantastic. Thanks, Jeff. Yeah, so SAJJ Mediterranean is a line concept where we serve Mediterranean food. We have things like shawarma, falafel. We have a lot of salads, and it's fully customizable. So you could get a bowl, maybe a rice bowl or a salad bowl, and have your own protein. You could have a SAJJ wrap, which is our own bread. SAJJ, by the way, the name SAJJ is, if you envision a wok it's a very thin, concave piece of metal. And in the old days, they would light a fire underneath it and bake thin bread on top. So that's what SAJJ is, and that's the inspiration of what we have. So we have our own thin bread, if you will. And we also have pita pockets. It's fully customizable. We are based in California. We have about 10 locations in Northern California, 3 in Southern California, and we're expanding. We're all corporate owned. A little history. My background, I come from the engineering space. I was in Silicon Valley as an engineer and worked in semiconductor engineering for a long time. And I always had the idea of having a falafel or shawarma street food, and I always thought it was done good and good quality. It'll be a good business to have. I went fast forward 25 years. I was in semiconductor engineering. My wife did her master's thesis study about establishing a Mediterranean chain, and left that alone. Went into art and interior design. Then in 2012, a good friend of mine called me, who's in the culinary space, and said, how about we try this concept of yours? And I said, great. I don't know much about food. I'll be happy to help, market and fund and technology and stuff like that. And here we are, 8 years later with all these units. And we also have food trucks that we go around. Our food is fresh. What makes us unique, it's very customizable, and everything is left at the ingredient level. Lucky I have a great chef and a great management team that takes care of the food day to day, and we're excited. I think we're starting to grow with different models, and look forward to being maybe in New Jersey sometime soon, Jeff.
Oh wow, that'll be great for us folks on the other side of the country, and it's awesome to have a new concept coming into our part of the country, and that'll be even closer to me. So being over here in North Carolina, New York, New Jersey area would be a great place to go, and makes perfect sense. But man, you said a lot of interesting things there, and I just want to ask, you were talking about the food and things. Are you primarily locally sourced? I believe I saw that on the website.
Yes. So the all of the produce and all of the bread is locally sourced.
Okay.
And we actually display in the locations where we get our produce from. And it's a really good thing to do. Support local farmers. It is normally much fresher because there's a lot less transport time. and it's actually ends up to be less expensive, and it's better for you. So it's so wherever we go, we source the produce locally, and the bread is also sourced locally as well. We used to do our own baking, and we actually realized that we can still do it, but we have local bakeries do our own breads based on our own recipes, and it's really good for the environment. It's good for the community. It's good for the bakers. It's good for everybody. And they deliver it fresh to us every morning. So those two things are local. In terms of supply chain, we have about 15 items that we call them SAJJ, proprietary items. It's what makes SAJJ SAJJ, really. Like our own hummus, our own tzatziki, our own garlic spread, obviously all of the meats and the marinades. And those we either do in our own commercial kitchen, which we have in Northern California, or with partners that are designed really for consistency and scale. There's a lot of great co-packers out there that do an incredible job, fully automated and incredibly clean, incredibly consistent. So we work with co-packers as well, and those will be the 15 items that make SAJJ unique. That's what makes SAJJ SAJJ. So it's kind of a hybrid model.
Well, it's you've got to get creative these days to succeed, and sounds like you have. And I know we're going to get into some conversation about that here in a few minutes, especially the ghost kitchen side. And so I'll have all of our audience hanging on the edge for that. But before we get there, I just kind of wanted to ask you. I mean, you came from architectural background. You explained what your wife had done to kind of set you guys up with doing her thesis. On building this restaurant, really, which is unique to say the least, and I'm sure it gave you guys a great head start. Is your wife still involved in the business?
She actually does all of the interior design for the new locations.
Okay, awesome. So that's great to keep it in the family, and as you been in the business now for 8 years, can you share just a couple of maybe the bigger challenges that you faced aside from COVID, maybe in getting it started, or when you kind of took that first step and got the first one in the ground and then decided to jump to the second one? Maybe if you could just share a couple of challenges you ran into and how you got through those.
Yeah, absolutely. It hasn't been a smooth journey, really. It's a lot of zigzagging. It's about doing things and then coming back, retracting and doing it differently.
Yeah.
This is by far it's a people's business. I mean, all businesses rely on people, but this is I would say 95% of the focus has to be on the people. Having the right team members, having the right training, and having the right people in the right positions with dedication towards the job. By far, that's the biggest part of the business, the most important part of the business. And I'm lucky where we developed our team members with great training programs and with great coaching and a lot of transparency. The challenges were initially when we started out. We always had a great product. Our food is always great. It's always consistent, very fresh. We lacked the procedures. We lacked the operating procedures of how you do things the same way and you do it proper 100% of the time, 100% of the time.
Right.
When you have one unit, it's okay. You're there. You manage it. It's not a big deal. The minute you go to unit number 2, then those procedures have to be in place. You have to have everybody does everything the same way. And then you go to unit number 3, and the problems become exponential. So the biggest thing we had is when we started expanding we went back and revamped all of our procedures and retrained everybody to do everything the same way. The second thing is the supply chain. So when we first started, you have one location, everything comes to that location, whether it's paper product or proteins or groceries, and you deal with it and you use what you need to use. When you have 2 locations, you start shuttling things back and forth. What we did is initially we had all the way up to 3 units, we had everything come to a central location. We had a central warehouse, and then we would distribute everything to the stores, to the remote units. And once we went past 3 units, we realized that is really not efficient. You cannot be transporting paper products, for example, or even produce. And why do you want to have your produce come to one location and then you take it to another location? So we had that was a big challenge is to change the supply chain and the distribution model, where we went to a commissary that does the SAJJ only items, but everything else goes directly to the store. So we changed the way the distribution happens. And then, going from 5 units to 10 units was another challenge, because now you're looking at multiple regions. You're looking at different geographies. You're not going to be able to drive to all 10 units, at the same time. So now you start thinking about middle management. You think about district managers. You think about how, store number 1 is going to do exactly the same food and the same process as store number 10. So you start building the infrastructure, and obviously your distribution and your supply chain has to grow with you. Now we're going from 10 stores to 20 stores, and that causes in Northern California and Southern California. So now we have locations that are 300-400 miles away. How do you run? What kind of infrastructure do you need to have in Southern California? What kind of management level? I look at things in 2 ways. You have food and labor is one, but then you have management and growth and marketing and construction and everything else. So, what kind of skill sets and jobs you need to have to be able to run locations that are remote. Mind you, we're all corporate owned. So we run and operate all of our locations. We might franchise at some point, and franchising would require yet a different skill set, because now you're right. You're not running and operating a brand. You're actually managing somebody else or overseeing somebody else that's managing and running your brand. Yes. So, and one of the reasons we're not franchising is I think we're franchise ready. I mean, we have all the infrastructure in place, supply chain procedures, and all of that. It just we're not doing it because I think we need to be have stronger foundation before we start handing it over to other people. Some people franchise with 1 or 2 units, and I think they're a franchise core business, right? And that's what they do. We run and operate our own locations for now, and at some point we might franchise, which would require yet another, core competencies and different skill sets.
Yeah. Then you got to get into the whole business development piece, and you've really got to bolt on a whole nother component there with sales, sales and development side, which would be new to you. So it's interesting because, like you said, some people, I've seen franchises start after 1 or 2 stores, and based on what you just shared, which was actually really interesting, of kind of the different levels, one store, and then 2 to 5, and then 5 to 10, and 10 to 20. The challenges are similar, but they do expand and grow, with each one. And, how do you get it right with just 1 or 2 locations, and you guys, I think the way you're doing it sounds, even though it slows you down a bit in terms of how quickly you can expand, it seems like a better way to go about it, a more efficient way, and a way to go about it without, having, huge problems down the road. So I applaud you for that. You're getting it right before you put it out there.
Yeah, I mean, when we started in Orange County, we wanted to really experiment on our own selves because we knew we were going to make mistakes. Yeah. And we didn't want to hurt anybody in the process. We just were very realistic, and that helped us a lot in figuring out the supply chain. How do you get, the SAJJ proprietary products to Orange County while you're in the Bay Area, right? And that helped us a lot in the framework of how to set the foundation so that you could grow beyond California. But yeah, we took the risk on our own. We messed up, we made mistakes, and learned from it, and developed better systems, and hopefully. And that's going to be the process as we go. Every time you do something, we're open-minded in terms of we study it as much as we can, but at the end of the day, you got to do it and find where the pitfalls are and fix it and keep going. I tell my guys all the time, like Napoleon with the great book War and Peace, and his whole motto was conquer and then see. You gotta go, do what you need to do, and then figure it out. You could plan and keep planning, but then at the end of the day, because the obstacles that you're gonna encounter, then you don't necessarily know all of them. New stuff is gonna come up that you didn't even think about, right? So the main thing is to be adaptable and change to be able to fix things and hopefully get it right the second time.
Yes, sir. And that's a great point, is that, new obstacles will come up and slap us right in the face. And of course we had that last year with COVID. Well, I guess we're going on 2 years now with COVID, and now the industry itself, and I won't belabor this, but just ask a quick question about, kind of what, how the big three challenges of today are, of course, staffing and labor, finding staff, food prices and food shortages. How has that impacted you guys, and kind of how are you trying to work through it?
It's a big challenge, Jeff. It really, really is challenging. COVID is really I've never, obviously in the world, I haven't seen something like this before. It's very challenging in the sense that, I like to plan my day or plan my week, and, kind of know what I want to do. And still until today, every day you're dealing with new challenges you haven't even thought about. It's like I wake up in the morning, I say, I'm going to do this today. I end up doing something completely different. It's like putting fires every day.
Yeah.
And to your point, labor is a very, very big challenge, and supply chain is a very, very big challenge. And in labor, so actually we slowed down our growth because, the Delta variant, to start with, was a big. Everybody knew there's going to be variants, we just didn't know how bad it's going to be.
Right.
Delta was a bad one, obviously. So we slowed our growth, and the main reason we slowed our growth is we cannot hire people. We can't hire the right team members. And I think the model for labor has shifted. A lot of people in the restaurant business got out of the restaurant business because of COVID, and I don't blame them, because if you're furloughed and you're not working for a month or two, you start looking elsewhere. What can you do? So a lot of people went to the gig economy, whether it's Uber or DoorDash. A lot of people went to the grocery businesses because they were very busy during COVID and they needed people. And a lot of them just reflected on the food business, and they had time to think that, what, now I could do something else.
Yeah.
So I believe that the labor shortage in the food business in specific, in restaurants in specific, is here to stay. So the model is different. The model now, you got to rely on less people, but more qualified people and more dedicated people that want to be in this industry. And obviously with that comes, more training, you give them more responsibility, more management, more pay, and all of that. So I think we're going to be dealing with less people, but more qualified and more interested people that want to be in the field. For us, luckily, we always had a great program with our employees. We have our GMs, general managers, are our main salespeople. They interact with all the customers. So now we're building more with what we already have in terms of labor, but it's very challenging. It's very, very hard to find people. And I know restaurants are cutting hours. They're shutting down early. I know a lot of restaurants that are closing their dining rooms just because they don't have enough people. So labor is a big challenge. The other one that's really problematic right now, and I've been spending a lot of my time on it in the last couple of months, is the supply chain disruptions on all levels.
Yeah.
On all levels, whether it is our own proprietary product, whether it's commodities, whether it's paper product. And the problems are scarcity of product as well as distribution. And I'm sure everybody heard and read a lot about the subject matter, and this, I think, will work itself out. It's going to take some time, maybe 6 months, maybe 10 months. But I think the supply chain issues will stabilize, albeit prices are higher, and prices generally don't go back down, right? So we had to deal with managing our margins and managing our pricing. And luckily, and thank God, our customers and customers, in the whole nation, I think, are very empathetic with restaurants, and raising prices by half a dollar or 3-4%. Really, the customers are okay with it because of where we are today. So we're adapting, we're changing. I'm willing to take short-term losses, for long-term gain. I mean,
right.
we want to keep going. We're almost out of COVID. Luckily, we lost only one location while we were in COVID. All other locations are up and running. We're not doing as well as pre-COVID, but at least we're on the way out. So we're going to do whatever we need to do, whether it's on the labor front or on the supply chain front or on the pricing front, to keep going and make sure that our guests, they get our food, they get the experience and be able to re-engage with them again post-COVID.
Yes, sir. Yeah, well, that was very well said. Thank you for sharing that detail, because I think you hit the nail on the head. With the way you described it, and what it has to be frustrating for owners such as yourself is that, and people I've talked to have said so, demands, for good food, and for, nice, wonderful dine-in experiences seems to be up. But unfortunately, we don't have the labor and we don't have the, the supply chain to necessarily meet the demand. So it makes it even worse knowing it's there, but you can't take advantage of it, like we wish we could. It seems like after COVID, at least to me and many people I talked to, that Americans, people here in this country, just decided they no longer wanted to cook at home. We want to go out all the time. And, that makes it tough for you guys to be able to supply us. And, it's just frustrating. And I'm sure you've been through that yourself.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's been really frustrating. And some of the shifts in the industry with COVID are here. I mean, a lot of the technology that took place during COVID was accelerated, if you will. I mean, we as a company always were digitally enabled. You could order online. We had relationships with all of the delivery partners, but we doubled down on technology in COVID. And I mean, more than 50% of our orders today are done electronically for either pickup or delivery. So, I mean, and nobody talks to anybody, right? I mean, you go online or you go on your phone, you order what you want. You could go through our channels or through our partners' channels,
right,
and either come pick up or have somebody deliver it for you. That was probably 15% pre-COVID. So that shifted the model quite a bit. And you're absolutely right, Jeff. I mean, I think people want to go out, and if they want to stay home, they don't want to cook. Me too. I mean, because we were cooked up at home for so long, right? And now you just want to, go out. And I think if you look at the categories of restaurants, the full service restaurants are doing. There's a lot of demand, and with the outdoor dining being a bigger piece now, it's a great thing, right? Then you have the fast food and the drive-throughs, and they're doing phenomenal because they're drive-throughs and nobody goes in.
Right.
It is our sector really that's kind of challenged a bit. And the other reason is for our business, we rely a lot on corporate accounts in terms of catering and in terms of lunch business. And as you know, most people are not back to the offices; they're working out of home. So we really need the people to go back. Even though they're not going to go back 100%, they probably go back 50% or whatever the company wants. We really need those people to go back to the offices, and they will. It's just a matter of time until. So there's a lot of shifting that happened in the industry. Ironically, I mean, I'll tell you, we're going to be opening a location in Southern California inside a grocery store.
Oh wow!
So talking about the shifts in the industry.
Yeah.
It's kind of like a ghost, not so ghost kitchen, and I think it's kind of exciting because we're right next to a big university, we're right next to a big medical center. It's a lot of residential around, quite a bit of businesses around, and in a very busy supermarket. So this is another shift that's happening where brands are actually now going, and some of that has been happening for a long time. I mean, you'll find the Starbucks inside a Kroger's or inside a Safeway. But now actually they want to have the full restaurant experience. And what enables that is that the digital presence with online ordering and with delivery, you could be anywhere, because if a good percentage of your business is for pickup and delivery, you're not relying on having your own dining room, you're not relying on having your own physical location. You could be anywhere really, and if your delivery piece is high, then you could even be in an industrial area. You don't even have to be in a retail area, and that's really the old definition of ghost kitchens. Is you're a ghost. I mean, the food Actually, the definition is, if you think of the catering companies, the companies that used to cater to whether it's homes or to the offices, their kitchens were in industrial areas. They were not in retail areas because nobody's going to go and visit them. They're going to take the food and deliver it to either the office or to the. So COVID kind of accelerated the way food is being consumed and being delivered, which is kind of interesting.
Yeah, you're exactly right, and I'd love to hear more about the ghost kitchen piece, because you guys are investing. As we talked about earlier, you're working on a growth strategy that includes ghost kitchens and partnerships, and I'd love to hear more about that if you wouldn't mind sharing.
Absolutely. So we've been looking at ghost kitchens for quite a while, and there's now many great ghost kitchen companies out there, and there's various models. And I look at that space. It's a spectrum. It is not. There's no one definition for what a ghost kitchen is or a cloud kitchen. It goes, like I mentioned earlier, from the conventional ghost kitchen where caterers used to make food in bulk and take it and deliver it and serve it to restaurants. To offices or to homes.
Yep.
And that's the old definition of a ghost kitchen, where the kitchen is in an industrial area. There's no dining hall. Nobody could go there and order. You have a bunch of trucks that carry the food, take it to where you need to go, and the company serves it on premise. All the way to being able to have a kitchen that has either, whether it's own brand or somebody else's brand, that they manage, or have multiple brands, if you will, that somebody would walk up to and be able to place an order in a kiosk and be able to get the food right there and then. And the definition is that you're not going to eat there. But nowadays, some of these, I call them digital food halls, are allowing people to even eat on premise. And the idea there was, now with the delivery services like DoorDash and Uber Eats and Grubhub, I'm going to get orders to this physical location to satisfy, let's say, a 5-mile radius, and it's going to be delivered with one of those delivery partners. And by the way, we're going to allow you to come in and order yourself if you want, but you could order from a kiosk. You're not going to order from a person. And the idea is that you're going to take it and go away. And then everything in between, right? So you have the ghost kitchen that's in an industrial area, that's remote, that nobody touches and sees, that just takes the food and delivers it. And then you have the other idea where you have multiple brands under one roof, managed by a company that runs the operation. So you think of a digital food hall. Yeah, I mean, food halls were very, very big. Food halls are still big in shopping centers.
Yeah.
You go to a shopping center, you get 10 different restaurants. You have the pizza guy and then the hamburger guy. But those are ran and operated by the brands. In this case, when you go to a ghost kitchen, it's generally ran and operated by a third party that has multiple brands, that allows you to order from multiple people at the same ticket. Mm-hmm. So, right, and everything in between. In between meaning, I'm going to be in an industrial area running somebody else's brand. I'm going to be in like Kitopi that does something different, where they have food trucks or food carts, if you will, that they put over different parking lots, and they run, I think, like Denny's brand, or they run somebody else's brand as a to-go kitchen, as a ghost kitchen. So it's a spectrum, right? It's not just one-off. So what we're doing is, I still believe, though, as a brand, the brick and mortar, our own physical locations that are owned and operated by us, are very important. I think of those as temples, if you will. I mean, this is where you really become intimate with the customer. That's where the customer could come in and try the food, try different kinds of food, engage with our staff, engage with our people, and really understand what the brand is all about. We can take feedback from them, and then hopefully they could join our loyalty program, so we could communicate with them all the time and tell them when we have specials or new items and so on and so forth. Now, as a core, but then we're trying this new strategy where we have ghost kitchens and licensed brands around that major brick and mortar location that we have, and we work with those ghost kitchens and or with the licensed partners to either fulfill demand. So if we don't have enough space, then they could fulfill the demand for that, but also to fill pockets that are not within our radius. So if you look at the delivery radius for on demand means you order now to get the food right away. Yeah. it's no more than 5 miles. So if you have a community that is 7 miles away, and but it's not big enough to have our own brick and mortar, it makes sense to do it with a licensed partner and or with a ghost kitchen. So it's a hybrid model, and then over time, the region will be populated, and you could access the brand whether it's through the brick and mortar, through licensing, and through ghost kitchens. So this is kind of where we're going with it. It's not proven yet. I mean, with change comes a lot of uncertainties. Like we said earlier, some things would work, some things would not work. But I'm excited about it, and the licensing part is pretty cool because the operator, our licensing partner, builds and runs the locations. And it just so happens that the people to work with, they have between say 6 and 10 brands under the same roof, which is really nice because it gives the variety for our guests. You could mix and match from different brands, and from our end, obviously we have to oversee the quality, oversee the execution of the food, make sure that our brand is protected and the brand promise is there.
Right.
And we treat them like any other store, right? We have our own audits, we have our own. We go and try the food all the time. Training, we train their staff. They come to our locations and train them. So they're really an extension of what we do. But it's another venue for us to get our brand out to more people that we're not touching today.
Can I ask you a question?
Sure.
Just to better understand, so these license opportunities are licensed operators. Can they run that out of a food truck, or do they need a brick and mortar? I'm thinking brick and mortar.
Yeah, if you're gonna have, in the case that we're working with 2 companies in the Bay Area. They are brick and mortar.
Okay.
But even their models are the different models within the licensing. So I'll give you an example. One of them it's full blown. They do full cooking on site. They have 6 brands. So they need brick and mortar. They need the space. They need the facilities. They need the walk-in refrigerator. They need the hoods and all of that.
Right.
And we license them. We basically they buy the products from us and they execute it right there and then on their premises. Another one we work with is slightly different. They buy pre-made product and then they heat it and do the final touches, if you will. So there's less touch from their end. So their facilities are much smaller, and it doesn't require all of the grills and the hoods and all that kind of stuff. Now, Kitopi, for example, which is in the east, it's actually one of the largest ghost kitchens now. They have food trucks or food carts, if you will, that they execute out of. But I don't know if they do more than one brand at the same time. Gotcha. Right? So it depends. So if you're going to do multiple brands, you really have to have a big facility because you can't run it out of a food truck or a food cart. If you're doing one brand at a time, you possibly could do it.
You possibly could, yeah. Yeah, that makes sense. There would be not enough room to store.
Correct.
6 brands in a food truck.
Right. Yeah.
To have everything together. So yeah, that's really, really interesting. I have, we've really never dug into that at all, on this show. And I'm sure a lot of folks who are listening, especially some other owners, are thinking, hey, that's a good idea, and they may already be thinking in those same directions. But, you talked about earlier having to kind of do it and then figure it out. You conquer first and then figure out, what to do after that. We're talking about licensing deals and things that restaurant owners typically haven't gotten into before. Was that a big learning curve for you as well?
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, it's something new. And I mean, my board of directors and our attorney, had to review this stuff and make sure that it's not franchising, because franchising the requirements for franchising are a lot different than licensing. Just to make sure that legally we're okay. And also to learn how the model works. And by the way, a lot of these companies, some are more established than others, but some of them are brand new themselves. So they're trying to figure out too, and the idea is, okay, let's figure this thing out together. We don't really know exactly how it's going to end up, but we really got to move on and try different directions. And some of the stuff, like I said earlier, will work. Some of it is not going to work. So we're kind of building the plane as we fly it, as they say.
Yeah. No, I can imagine, because I'm sitting here now, everything you say, I'm thinking of 10 different more questions, around it that somebody you have to think through and ask and try to figure out of how to pull that off. But it seems like a great opportunity for, a licensing situation. Number one, I'm guessing you can confirm that the investment to get in, for startup is going to be smaller in a licensing deal and than if you're doing a full-blown kitchen. Is that accurate?
That's 100%. Yes, Jeff. It is a lot less, and it varies depending on which part of the spectrum you're in. Yeah. We're doing a deal with Kitchens United in Southern California, where they're building the infrastructure, but we bring our own equipment. But we staff that kitchen ourselves, and it's our own kitchen. So that's going to be a smaller kitchen, and it's digital only, right? So it's designed for DoorDash and Uber Eats, and for our own channels where people could order from us and we deliver, or people come and pick up. So the cost of entry is much, much lower than if we were to build our own brick and mortar, build the infrastructure. And the other thing about it also, generally speaking, the lease commitment is shorter than if you were to get your own brick and mortar. Which is good, by the way, for both us and the partner, in this case, Kitchens United. So if we do very well in that location, great, everybody's happy to keep going. If we're not doing well, it's not good for them, it's not good for us. Obviously we try, you get into a location after you study it, thinking that you will do well, but you never know. I mean, you could end up not performing as well, or another food category or another food brand would do better. It'll be in everybody's interest to, take our equipment and leave, and then you're not stuck with a 10-year lease. You didn't spend so much money on tenant improvement and so on. So it's a lot less expensive to get in. Obviously, you have to work with the partner, because it's the way we look at this is creating win-win situations. So if we do well, everybody does well. And that's the idea.
Yeah, I love that idea. I mean, it's so entrepreneurial. It just feels like a whole new industry kind of. And I know ghost kitchens have been around for some time, but as you so wonderfully explained, there's multiple types of ghost kitchens, and the whole licensing piece and the idea that you don't even have to cook. That essentially you could just be get you a cart and be able to provide great food that you purchased from people like yourself, and be able to start your own business. I just love it's kind of like a hot dog stand, but you don't have to make the hot dog.
Exactly.
You just got to drop it in hot water and stick a bun under it, and you're good to go.
Yeah, it's easy. And the other aspect of it, Jeff, is I'm sure you've heard of virtual brands. They're brands that only exist for delivery, and again, they come out of ghost kitchens. That's why they call them virtual. You can't go and touch and feel the brick and mortar or the space. And there's a lot of big businesses now that are doing this. And the idea in COVID made a lot of sense, where there was so much restaurant or kitchen capacity, because a lot of restaurants were shut down or not even open, or if they are open, they're doing less than 50% of what they used to do. So they had a lot of capacity, and then these companies came about and said, well, listen, why don't you start selling a chicken wings concept on your downtime? You could do it between 4 and 8 p.m. or 4 and 10 p.m., whatever. And I'll give you the recipe, I'll give you where to buy it from, and I'll digitally enable you to get orders and call it, Jeff's Chicken.
Yeah.
And so it's a virtual brand. So there's a lot of companies that are doing that aspect of it. So you take the virtual brand concept, you layer it on top of the ghost kitchen concept, and you got so many different things going on. So we dabbled with a lot of this stuff, but then we're one brand, we're SAJJ, that's what we do. We're focusing on growing that, and we're growing it with partners, whether it's through ghost kitchens or licensing or our own. A big component of our business is the corporate catering. It's not there now. It will return. So having access to businesses, whatever you can would help. Will help us, kind of go back to hit on all cylinders, if you will.
Yes, sir. Yeah. As soon as that corporate business or people get back to work and you pick up that lunch revenue starts to get back to where it was, and the catering business gets back to where it was, you guys, and with the added concepts now of the ghost kitchens and digital brands and all the things that are going, you guys are cooking on all stovetops, my friend.
We're trying. We're trying.
You got the burners lit and ready to rock and roll. And
I'm sure we're going to burn a pot or two, but it is what it is.
Well, that sounds like me trying to cook. That's why my wife keeps me out of the kitchen. I'm not much of it, but gosh, I mean, it's so exciting. I appreciate you sharing all that information. I just looked down at my time and I realized I'd overspent my time with you already. But man, that's great information. Like I said, we haven't had the opportunity to really talk about and learn more about some of these new concepts. And you guys are on the forefront. You're fighting the battle and learning as you go. But I'm sure you're going to knock it out of the park. And I can't wait to have a follow-up and see how well it's going. So thank you so much for sharing, all that information, Zaid.
Absolutely, Jeff. Absolutely.
Yeah. Any closing thoughts or remarks or anything that you wanted to say or share with any folks out there?
No, thank you so much. I mean, the one thing I would say for my fellow restaurateurs at this stage, it's really got to take care of your people. Thank them every day for being there. Everybody's been through a tough period, and restore the culture as much as you can with transparency and making sure that all your employees are happy and doing well. I mean, that would be my biggest takeaway at this stage.
Well, that's awesome. And again, I appreciate you taking time to be on with us today. I can't wait to go back and listen to this. And I hope that maybe I can ask you a few follow-up questions that might roll in once we get this thing published, because I imagine there's a lot of interest in this kind of model. And heck, you might have to write a book and start a consulting business on the side. That'll be your third career, sir.
We'll leave that for the experts.
Well, again, for all of our listeners, it's Zaid Ayoub. Zaid Ayoub on here with us today from SAJJ Mediterranean. SAJJ Mediterranean. I'm getting all mixed up here at the end of the day over here in North Carolina time. But thank you so much for your time. There's 13 locations today over in Southern California, actually 10 in Northern.
Yeah. Correct.
And 3 on the other side of California. And these guys are looking to expand. And hopefully we're going to hear about one coming up in maybe Jersey or over here on the other side of the world on the East Coast here in the near future. And I congratulate you for all you've done. We thank you for your time. And again, we appreciate you being on today. So thank you, sir.
Thank you, Jeff. Thank you very much.
And for all our listeners, thank you for joining us for another episode of the Local Leaders Podcast. I'm Jeff Johnson, your host, and we look forward to seeing you on our next show.